the shark has pretty teeth, dear, and he shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife has Macheath, dear, and he keeps it out of sight. When the
Good morning, PASW. Clients, staff, friends joining us. Welcome to Tuesday's class. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's class with Louis Prima, the great trumpet player and band leader and singer and showman. Such a great talent he was. We are going to go in a completely different direction. If you maybe recognized that song in the beginning, but probably not that version at all. That song was Mac the Knife. And if you thought I was just playing an odd version of it, I was really playing probably the original version of it, or, around the time from way back. We know it very well today from Louis Armstrong and Bobby Darin, which, they cover it great. But I did want to show you where that kind of song came from and what we're going to be talking about today. So we were in Vegas yesterday in the 50s, 60s. So now we're going to go back and we're going to go to the late 20s in Germany, Berlin. We're going to be talking about a musical, and this was way before Oliver, way before Sound of Music, in 1928, and the musical / opera is the Threepenny Opera, and that's what we'll be talking about today. Threepenny Opera is a play and with music, and the two main people that are responsible are Brecht, who the playwright, and Kurt Weill, the composer. Threepenny is based on John Gay's 18th century English ballad, The Beggar's Opera. The work offers a socialist critique of the capitalist world going on at the time. So, before we go into we're not going to go too much into the plot because I want to focus on the music and also Brecht and Kurt Weill and how important they were to 20th century playwriting and music. They were extremely influential. So before we go to the opening night in August in 1928 of the show, let's talk about the importance of Bertolt Brecht. So Diana and David know much more about this than I do, but I'll just give you a little taste of why Brecht is so important and why we still talk about his techniques. So he's a theater playwright and poet, and although he didn't really come up with it, he's one of the early founders and the ones to really use the alienation effect, which is what we call the fourth wall in theater. So there's this wall, this wall, this wall when you're on stage, and the fourth wall that's you guys. He was the first, one of the first to really utilize this, which is kind of like the talking to the audience thing, which is no huge, phenomenon now, but it really was back then. He would also flood the theater with bright lights, not just the stage, place lighting equipment on stage that would make the audience acknowledge that the production is really, you're in a production and it's not reality. So you're not seeing a story that's just real on stage. Brecht and this fourth wall phenomenon is making you see that you're actually just seeing a production. I know this is confusing. It's self-reflexive. It's artificial. He was one of these artists to not just do realism on stage, but also show you, the audience, are almost part of the play. And not to go too far off, but that's what my favorite director, Peter Greenaway, has done with his films, starting in the 80s up until now. Self-reflexive movie making, or with Brecht's theater. So that's why Brecht is a genius. So Kurt Weill, the composer, was wrote a lot of the music in Three Penny Opera became hit songs, hence Mac the Knife, which is still recorded all the time today. He had a tremendous early music education in counterpoint, composition, all of these things. And like we've talked about with Leonard Bernstein and other composers, he was trained musically and then decided, you know what, instead of writing concert music, I might want to write songs, melodies in the style of American style folk songs, even though he was German. Not folk songs, but in the style of American pop songs, I should say. Because if you look at Mac the Knife, it's very simple in the harmony and the structure. It's just a tune. So the fact that a classically trained composer is okay writing a tune, hey, why not? It's a great tune, right? So he was interested in the Tin Pan Alley songs, and instead of his other contemporaries that studied classical music in Germany, he was very interested in kind of the American songbook. And I think composers like Gershwin and Irving Berlin and American songwriters, composers, probably were influenced a lot by Kurt Weill. So I think they both influenced each other from different parts of the world. So like we talked about Lionel Bart, who wrote Oliver, he didn't read or write a note of music, would just hear the songs in his head. Kurt Weill was, like we talked about, classically trained in music, took piano lessons and started writing music at the age of 12, so was very well versed in composition, but decided to write for the theater. The score to Three Penny Opera, it shows the influence of jazz, early jazz, and German dance music, cabaret style music almost, and the orchestration is kind of it's a small ensemble, because that fits well with this beggar's opera kind of, you know, there's nothing super polished about it, about the musical / opera, as we'll see in here in the music. But that's almost the point of it, you know. They wanted to write an opera for a beggar's opera for beggars, for people that couldn't afford to come in and see a big fancy show. This was a show almost for the common person in Berlin. So you can hear in the music that this mixture of jazz, like we said, and almost classical music, and cabaret, these idioms, and it's kind of a mixture of highbrow and lowbrow. I mean, the subject is very lowbrow: prostitutes, crooks, thieves, and but the music and the writing is highbrow in the sense of it's extremely clever and innovative for that time. So I would say the most important part about Three Penny Opera that I want us to get out of is that it was really one of the first works that succeeded in bridging this gap of experimental theater and popular theater. And I include music in theater, not just so much playwriting or serious drama, but because it didn't do well when it first came out, but then pretty quickly it became the most popular show in the world and went to all different countries. So it's very hard. Sometimes it's easy to be avant-garde and to say I'm going to break every single rule. It's very tricky to know which rules to break, and it's subjective. Nobody knows how a work of art's going to turn out. But with Three Penny, they did a brilliant job with the writing, the sets, the idea, the music, somehow where it came out as an experimental form of theater and work and something popular. That's really hard to do, to be cutting edge and out there, and to also be popular where people want to actually show up and pay money and hear these songs and see these people sing. So that's maybe the most important part, at least for me, about the success of the Three Penny Opera. So I hope you enjoyed it. Kurt Weill, Bertolt Brecht, two geniuses in the early 20th century in Berlin that really changed the world of theater and music. And it's just really fun. It's cool to listen to. Okay, we've said it all. I've said it all. Everybody said it all. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.